Well, Graham has put the car on pole position for the first of the two races here at Silverstone. Graham, welcome back to the Alfa Romeo Championship. It's great to see you racing again.
Yeah, and it's great to be out in the Peak Alpha GTV as well. It's a brilliant car to drive and it's great fun. Shame the weather conditions aren't too bright.
No, and I'm guessing being the only modified car out there as well, it makes it a little bit more interesting with the slippery surface.
Yeah, inevitably the sort of wet conditions are a great leveler as well, because yeah, I got a vastly more powerful car than anybody else, but you can't do anything with it in this weather.
No, and I guess putting the power down, as you say, it's very difficult. What do you think is going to happen as the track dries up? We've had a few cars and races out there now, so hopefully a dry racing line should be appearing.
Well, we'll have to play it by ear. Like you say, there's so much wet in the air at the moment that anything could happen.
Well, best of luck out there. Great to see you back out racing again. We wish you all the best. There we go. Graham on pole position. It's over to Andy to take you through the rest of the race.
Thanks, Lloyd. Well, yes, very tricky conditions here at the high-speed Silverstone National Circuit. Speeds may be a bit lower today, but the racing should be good quality. Graham Seeger and Scott Austin make up row one, ahead of Chris McPhee and Robin Mansell making his return. Daniel Wood and Ray Foley are on the third row. Then the twin sparks, Tom Hill and Riccardo Lascelli, ahead of Ciprian Nistorica and Richard Ford. Then it's Christian Leith, Dave Messenger, Andy Inman and Mel Freeman to round out the field. Well, this is going to be a voyage into the unknown for many of the drivers. Remember that the quicker cars running within the modified and powered trophy element of the race set off first, then the twin spark cars, which make up the bulk of the field actually, a little bit further behind them. Great variety out on the grid though, and it is the GTV of Graham Seeger that has the pole position, the 155 of Scott Austin alongside. The red lights go on, they go out now, away we go, and who makes the best start? It's likely to be one of the Abarths, you'd imagine. Well, there's actually only one Abarth here this weekend. That is Chris McPhee. No Simon racing with us here at Silverstone. He does get a good start, but it's Scott Austin that leads into turn one. The twin spark competitors now get their race underway with Tom Hill and Riccardo Lascelli sharing the front row, but Lascelli I don't think got a great start there, so Hill it is who will lead them through turn one. Down at Beckett's though, it is Austin leading the way outright, side by side almost for second place there between Chris McPhee and Graham Seeger, and diving up the inside of Seeger for third goes Robin Mansell. So Robin Mansell goes through into third position, but Seeger then gets the power down well out of Beckett, comes back through and should be able to draw alongside the Abarth for second place as well. Underneath the bridge they go. Yes, you can see the power there of the modified GTV working wonders in a straight line, but as he was saying to Lloyd pre-race, Graham Seeger will not necessarily have the speed through the corners, but that will help him because the race leader's gone off. Scott Austin off down at the back end of the back straight at Brooklands, and that was under pressure from the leader, but there was no contact. It was just a mistake from Scott Austin, and it's cost him the race lead, and you'd have to suspect probably a chance of the victory. He has rejoined though in, I think that's fourth position, side by side here for fifth. Up the inside is Ray Foley, once a winner last time out at Snetterton. And he dives up the inside of the 64 car of Daniel Wood in his 164. Now that's a very rare car. You do not see many Alfa Romeo 164s out on the circuit, but there it is in all its glory. Distinctive livery on the car as well. Never one of Alfa's more successful cars, be that on the road or on the track, but a distinctive car nonetheless. And I don't think there's such a thing as an ugly Alfa Romeo, is there? Down through Beckett comes a very wayward Robin Mansell. Now, Robin had been in third position, but that's two occasions now in 2 laps down at Beckett's that the rear of the car has not looked particularly happy on turn in, so Scott Austin goes back through. Of course, Scott himself had a moment down here a lap ago, so he may be a little bit circumspect down at Brooklands this time. They're wheel to wheel again with Mansell on the outside line, but Scott Austin, as long as he gets into the corner okay, which he does this time, should be able to hang on. It's Ray Foley this time that goes off and skates straight into the gravel trap, and Ray Foley's race will no doubt be done, and that's a real shame for Ray, who's been starting to find some form through the middle point of the season, and unfortunately things not quite going to plan here at Silverstone. So Ray Foley is out of the race, and in fact this is Ray's second appearance of the season. It's a fairly short-lived one, unfortunately. Back with the twin sparks and on board with Dave Messenger here, who is struggling to see, not just because of the spray, but also because of the windscreen that's starting to steam up. You can see just how gentle and how smooth he is with the controls there. The wheel wheel, barely moving at all through the corners, gentle on the gears, good mechanical sympathy. That's important in all forms of motorsport. Some would say more important maybe in Alfa Romeo racing than many others. You've got to look after these cars to get them to the end of the race. Christian Leith there is in the 32 car. Then you've got Riccardo Lascelli there, who started on the front row but didn't get a great start. And he is third car in this train, but these are all circulating behind the race leader Tom Hill, who is the championship leader, sorry, who's not the championship leader, excuse me, this weekend, but is likely to be after this race, because Paul Webster, who is the outright championship leader, running within the Power Trophy, well, he's not here at all. So as long as Tom Hill scores points in both races, he should move ahead. He comes here 12 points behind Paul Webster, so a couple of class victories will probably put him into the outright championship lead. Down in towards Brooklands they go. He double-waved yellows out as a result of Ray Foley's stricken car. You caught a glimpse there of Tom Hill. Christian Leith is second. This is therefore the fight for third in the twin spark element of the race. It's Dave Messenger coming around the outside, trying to find a way past Riccardo Lascelli. Messenger was second into the first corner, I noticed, so he's lost a bit of ground since then. Ciprian Historica goes around though. That was a textbook tank slapper. He lost the rear of the car coming through the left-hander at Brooklands, corrected, but the weight shift meant that the car then spun round the other way instead, so simply prolonged the spin. Eventually gets going though with no damage. Thankfully, because of the slippery conditions, the speed not too high through there, so he didn't come into contact with anything or anyone. That means it's now just a two-horse race for for third place in the twin sparks, with a very sideways Riccardo Lascelli doing his best to throw it away as well. That was a very, very close moment through Copse. He runs out over the curbs though. They are painted and they're like ice when they get wet. And so here comes Dave Messenger, carries more speed out of Copse corner, tries to get to the inside down towards Beckett, can't do it though. And you can see that whilst there is nothing like a dry line, there is a slightly less line that is sort of vaguely where the racing line ought to be. So once you start venturing off that, there's a bit more standing water. Trouble is, to overtake anybody, you have to go off that line. So it's a challenge for the drivers to know where to go and where to place the cars, but that's why you see some drivers just excel in wet conditions, others maybe struggle a little more, and that's why, because it does take a completely different driving style to be quick in the wet. So back through Brooklands goes this fight for what is third place in the twin spark class. Twin spark, of course, for the standard production cars up to 2 litres. And they all run the 16-valve twin-spark engine, and they tend to be 156s and 147s, which indeed is the case this weekend. We do not actually have a twin-spark 147. Of course, Ray Foley was in 147. That's a modified a GTA version, so he was within the Power Trophy. Through Cobb's corner we go. That was sideways there for Dave Messenger as he tries to chase after Riccardo Lascelli, but Lascelli looks a bit more comfortable now, doesn't he, in front? There's the recovering Ciprian Historica, and he's in behind the purple car of Andy Inman. Andy Inman working his way out of Copse corner, but Historica, who qualified third on the grid in the twin spark, so he has good pace, qualifying which set the grid for this first race of the weekend. And Ciprian Historica had decent pace in that one, but not really able to deliver on that with that spin that he had earlier on. He'd already slipped down a couple of positions as it was. We're back on board with Dave Messenger now. I don't see Riccardo Lascelli, and I think he is there off in the distance. You can see the recovery vehicle on the outside of Brooklands as well, working to move the stricken car out of the way, but look at the way the car just understeers its way through the corner. As soon as you hit that wetter bit of tarmac, there is just absolutely no grip, and the car just starts to aquaplane off the road almost. These cars are all front-wheel drive, of course, so twin spark element of the race certainly, so that can it means that the rear tyres don't come to temperature very quickly, which is why you see them often loose at the rear turning into the corners, but then once they get into the turn, it's understeered that is their worst nightmare. Through Woodcote they go, still flat out easily in these conditions. They approach Copse corner. There's some good news. Ray Foley's car is out of the gravel trap. The bad news is that as it dug into the gravel trap, it's torn the front bumper off, but it could have been worse. They'll clear the gravel out and the mud, and they'll get that bumper reattached for the second race, I'm sure. Back down towards Beckett, you got a glimpse there of the second and third place twin spark cars. It did look as though that gap was coming down slightly, wasn't it, between Christian Leith and Riccardo Lascelli. Here is the Andy Inman and Ciprian Historica battle. And it doesn't look as though Ciprian is close enough to attack this time around through Beckett's. We're on the shortest of the 3 layouts here at Silverstone, the National Circuit. it's deceptively simple. It essentially is 3 corners with 3 long straights in between them, but those corners are very challenging, and because they have long straights immediately after them, if you get a bad exit from a corner, then it hurts you all the way down the next straight. And so momentum is key. You can't afford to make any mistakes, and because it's a short lap, the times tend to be quite close as well. So qualifying was very competitive. Ciprian Historica nearly doing the same thing again there through Brooklands as he caught the puddle, and again through Luffield. He's got that car set up a little bit too loose, and he's really lost time that time around. Look at the gap that Andy Inman's been able to pull out as a result. Andy himself is starting to close in slightly on Mel Freeman, which is the car in front, number 61. Mel Freeman, I believe, first appearance of the season for Mel this year. Yes, it is. So to have another new driver on board, bringing in the 156, all of the Twin Spark cars this weekend, 156s as mentioned. Here is the fight between Chris McPhee and Scott Austin. So Chris McPhee, we've seen these Abarths go very well at times this season, but they are down on straight line speed compared to some of the other Power Trophy cars. So they were always going to struggle here at Silverstone. The wet conditions might have given them some hope that they might run a bit more strongly, but because it's such a short wheelbase car, they don't have quite the grip in the wet that some of the bigger cars do. However, Chris McPhee still carrying some really good speed into Beckett's there, and Scott Austin, although he was up the inside, wasn't able to make the move stick. So as they race back down the Wellington straight, it is still the Abarth in front, but the Alfa will have the edge in a straight line. Scott Austin trying to pull alongside, but to the outside line. In fact, they seemed fairly equal on straight line performance that time. There was no real advantage to either car. Turn through the left-hander, that puddle that seems to be forming on the apex of the corner that's caused a few dramas for drivers further back, and well, there's no such puddle at Luffield, but Scott Austin still getting sideways. That's what I meant about the rear tyres losing temperature. Again, because there are so few corners here, the tyres really don't get worked that hard. Good news in the dry because it means you don't wear them out, but bad news in the wet because it means you don't generate enough tyre heat, and sometimes by the time you get to that part of the circuit, the rear tyres are like ice again, and you turn in and there's nothing there. So that was a good save by Scott Austin. Of course, the trick in a front-wheel drive car when you get sideways is to simply mash your right foot down on the accelerator as hard as possible. It spins the front wheels up, it brings the front of the car back around, but you can sometimes end up with a bit of a tank slapper situation doing that. For second place in the Twin Spark class, we've had a change. Christian Leith has fallen behind Riccardo Lascelli, but he's now coming back at him up the inside in towards Brooklands. Wheel to wheel for the two of them, and Christian Leith is all out of shape again through that puddle. Great car control and great pictures from down at that part of the circuit as well, but the Grove and Dean Motorsport Insurance car of Lascelli has now gone through, and that car, number 27, has pedigree of running well in this championship in the past, although not necessarily with Riccardo on board. Riccardo Lascelli getting quicker as the year has gone on as well. Riccardo just scanning back through some of his other results this season. He's not been with us for every round of the championship, but I think his best finish within the class has been a 5th place, which was back at Cadwell Park a little bit earlier on in the season. Well, he's now looking for potentially his no, I beg your pardon, he did have a podium last time out at Snetterton in race 1, so podium is his best finish, but that was a 3rd in class. At the moment he's running 2nd, but Christian Leith doing his best to try and take that place back away from him. Lascelli, though, in one of the prettiest cars on what is a very pretty grid, has managed to pull a bit of a gap this time as they run down towards Brooklands. But he's early on the brakes, and look at that, that was really late on the brakes for Christian Leith. Now Christian didn't quite make it stick that time around, but yeah, that was very interesting. I think maybe that's something that Christian Leith will try to use in the future. Maybe on the next time around, if he's a bit closer, he'll know that he can probably outbrake Lascelli down to that part of the circuit. Back through Woodcote and down towards turn number 1, Copse Corner. Usually a very high-speed corner. It's still pretty high speed, even in the wet, but not quite as quick as it would be otherwise, but that was a bit too aggressive with the turn in there. Lascelli losing the rear of the car this time, and in the end Christian Leith doesn't have to rely on his superior braking abilities down at Brooklands. He forced the mistake there out of Lascelli, which was all too easy to make in this weather, and he's gone through anyway. So Christian Leith goes through, and look at the gap that he's built up as well. Is there a problem for Lascelli, or has he just lost confidence maybe now because of that moment that he had? He's still in 3rd though. This is the fight for, well, it's not actually for 4th, yes, it is for 4th, excuse me. That's Richard Ford, 31 car, trying to get up the inside of Dave Messenger. On board with Dave now as he takes the wider line out of Beckett's. runs the slightly drier line down the left-hand side of the Wellington Straight. Richard Ford is around here somewhere. Is he on the inside, is he on the outside, or has he dropped in behind? There's no sign of him yet as we turn in, and we are taking the apex, albeit a little bit sideways again. Remarkably relaxed though still is Dave Messenger, despite the car fishtailing around underneath him. But smooth driving style will help you in the wet, and so Dave trying to use that to his advantage. Gets out of Luffield over the painted curbs again, but gathers it together, and Richard Ford has not yet found a way past him. Through to go, down across the start-finish line into the second half of this first BRSCC Alfa Romeo Championship race, and there goes Richard Ford. So Richard Ford, as good as the exit was from Luffield for Dave Messenger, it was better for Richard Ford. So Richard just powers straight past him and then immediately gets sideways down at Copse Corner. Messenger tries to get the run on the exit of the turn, which I think he will do. Richard thought about moving over to cover that one, but realised he'd lost so much momentum that was always going to end in contact, and Messenger back on the inside line. So a battle under braking now through Maggots and Beckett, but on a slightly less wet line, it was Richard Ford who was able to go through. So Richard does go up into 4th position now. Whether he's got time to catch the cars in front, we'll have to wait and see. But he's ahead of Dave Messenger, who drops down to 5th. Mel Freeman, Ciprian Historica and Andy Inman are still all battling away behind. The next car in these drivers' rearview mirrors will be Scott Austin by the looks of it, who is about to arrive on the scene. There he is, ahead of Chris McPhee. So that means that Scott Austin is now back into 2nd position. Dave Messenger again, look at the car sliding around. He's getting a bit more animated in there now as he tries to go back after Richard Ford. Here comes Scott Austin. You're about to see the extra performance there of a Power Trophy car as it works its way through and then immediately kicks up the spray in the face of the slightly slower twin spark machine. Power Trophy cars, of course, for petrol engine cars, of which they all are at the moment. 195 brake horsepower per tonne is the way in which the regulations work. No superchargers or sequential gearboxes allowed in the Power Trophy either, so they are sort of a halfway house between the twin sparks and the modified cars. The modified cars, unlimited engine capacity, you can include a turbo, supercharger, sequential gears, you can have the works on a modified car, but there are none of those out this weekend, unfortunately. We hope to see a few of them. I beg your pardon, of course, Graham Seeger being the only modified car out there, but it'd be nice to see a bit more competition. I don't think we've ever had more than one modified car out all year long. Mervyn Miller came out with his 156 a bit earlier on in the season. Chris Oxborough was a podium finisher, in fact, last time out at Stetterton in his Alpha 75 with the V6 engine. If we could get them all together on the track at the same time, we'd have a really interesting race within the modified category, but as it is, if you turn up with a modified car, you're always likely to be running right at the front of the field because the Power Trophy cars, with a slightly more standard build, are just not able to quite keep up. There goes Scott Austin, still 2nd place then, ahead of Chris McPhee. The gap between them a couple of seconds or so. Chris McPhee, having defended valiantly for a while, just not been able to keep the pace since then. There, Christian Leith and Riccardo Lascelli are back together again. So Lascelli, in fact, Leith is in front yet. Yes, so that has changed that. So yes, so Leith has gone through, but Lascelli, after that moment that he had down at Copse Corner a few laps ago, now tried to fight back and does so up the inside in towards Beckett. It's not sure whether he made that one work. There's Richard Ford already gapping Dave Messenger, who definitely seems to have a bit too much oversteer dialed into that car. And then empty track behind before we get this battle. This is number 72, which is Robin Eyre Mansell. In fact, that's not for position then, he's just put a lap on Mel Freeman. This is for position now, Andy Inman and Ciprian Historica. So Ciprian Historica, having qualified 3rd, dropped to the back of the pack after that moment, that spin that he had down at Brooklands, and has not been able to regain any position since then. Graham Seeger, though, is well on his way, continues down towards Copse Corner. Here is Scott Austin trying to work his way past the battle that is for 2nd in the Twin Spark Trophy. And Christian Leith it is who still has it, but as he lets Graham Seeger through, that could allow Lascelli up the inside. Not quite, but Lascelli's carrying some good speed through Maggots. On the wet side of the road, though, this could be risky. Wheel to wheel through the corner. They've also got Chris McPhee coming up to put a lap on them before too much longer. There he is in the Abarth, so hopefully will be able to move out of his way down the back straight, because the Abarth, whilst it's not as quick as some of the other Power Trophy cars in the straight line, it's still fairly rapid compared to a twin spark car. Speaking of twin spark cars, here's about the one twin spark machine that we haven't seen all race, and that's because Tom Hill has led this race from pole position from the start, and is looking good for a 6th victory of the season, and this will put him in the lead of the championship. You score points within your class rather than for overall finishing positions, so by winning his class, Tom Hill is going to take maximum points away from this race, despite the fact he's only going to finish about 6th position overall. But Tom Hill, as I said, on 5 of the 8 occasions so far this year, has finished at the top step of the podium within the twin spark element of the races. His one real block to the copybook was last time out at Snetterton, where he didn't finish the first race and then finished 3rd in race number 2. So that accounts for 2 of the 3 races that he didn't win. And the other one, Paul Plant pipped him by a few seconds back at Anglesey. So Tom Hill, other than that, it's been a perfect season. The man who won the twin spark class last year, Andrew Bourke, won the championship outright last year because he had a slightly better season within his own class, but Tom Hill looking to take the championship lead away from Paul Webster in this race. Richard Ford is his nearest rival in the twin spark category, but 14 points further back. Graham Seeger in the modified GTV works his way past a back marker or 2 as he heads in towards turn 1. That's Andy Inman that he's just gone past, who we believe has had a moment somewhere, because Ciprian Historica has gone past him. So Historica has gained a place and actually pulled a fair few seconds further up the road as well. So there is Graham Seeger. He, it would appear, is going to come through a winner for the first time this season on his return to the championship. We've seen Graham, though, race in the championship on numerous occasions in the past. This GTV has been quick in all weathers, at all circuits. It's a great balance between outright power, which, as you can see by the rate at which it's making its way down the Wellington Straight, it's got plenty of that, but it also handles very well. It's got a low centre of balance, low centre of gravity, wide wheelbase, got the big front splitter and the rear wing generating downforce as well. So it really is the perfect race car, and it tends, touch wood, to be fairly reliable as well. So Graham Seeger will be hopeful that he can make it a double race victory this weekend. Out of Luffield they go, down towards Woodcote, and Graham Seeger is going to win the first race, the 9th round of the BRSCC Alfa Romeo Championship here at a sodden Silverstone. But it is a victory for Seeger by a very comfortable margin indeed. Through will come Andy Inman. He's going to finish towards the back of the twin spark element of the race. The twin spark's almost certainly going to be won by Tom Hill. We'll wait to see who is next across the line. It's a big old wait before we get to anybody else. In fact, it was so long a wait that we'll just give you the results. It's Graham Seeger with a win from Scott Austin and Chris McPhee. Robin Eyre Mansell and Daniel Wood round out the top 5. Tom Hill did win the twin sparks from Christian Leith and Riccardo Lascelli, whilst Richard Ford was down in 9th. 4th in class, which means he loses quite a few points to the class leader Tom Hill. Dave Messenger, Mel Freeman, Ciprian Historica and Andy Inman round out the finishers, whilst Ray Foley was the only driver not to reach the end.
Graham, when we spoke to you before the race, you said it was going to be difficult to keep the power down, particularly given the conditions, but you didn't seem to have many problems out there.
Well, I was just saying on commentary, it's a credit to the Peak Alpha GTV. At the end of the day, I didn't go above like 4,000 revs. You just change gear, short change, keep the power under control, and then just use momentum. It handles well, grips well, and like I say, it was a pleasure to drive. Yeah, obviously it's scary from time to time, but yeah.
Much the same again for race 2. I mean, conditions are likely to. Conditions we're hearing are going to get a little bit worse this afternoon. So, is there anything in the setup that you're likely to change, or do you just leave it as it is and go with what you know?
I could go softer still, but like you say, there's merit in go with what you know. We've just done 20 minutes with it as it is. It would have to be significantly different, I guess, to make me want to change something again. But we could go softer. Whether I will or not, I don't know.
Well, congratulations on your victory. We look forward to seeing you after race 2.
Thank you very much.
Scott, 2nd place out there, and it's torrential conditions. It must make it interesting to drive, especially with the car that you've got there in the 155.
I always call it my boat anchor because it weighs about the same, but I wish I had a boat today, to be honest, because I think if I'd have been rowing, I'd have been faster, but it was okay, you know, apart from the first lap where I thought I'd throw it at the scenery, but I managed to get it back on the track and managed to come home first in class, so big surprise. Yeah, happy with that, very happy.
Yeah, first in class, second overall. Conditions this afternoon likely to be a little bit different. We're not sure at the moment. We're hearing mixed weather reports. What can you do?
Well, I'm still doing my rain dance because I haven't got the power these guys have got, so I'm doing a rain dance. Hope it's going to be the same this afternoon. It gives me a little bit of an edge where the guys with the power have got the edge everywhere else, so I'm rain dancing.
Well, we'll come out and join you shortly then. Thanks very much, Scott.
Thanks a lot, cheers.
Chris, third place, but tough racing. Talk us through it, because there seemed to be a lot of action going on.
Yeah, conditions are very testful out there, very slippery, but obviously we're all in the same boat. The Fiat handles quite well in the wet, but yeah, there was a few times where it did try and catch me out, as it did a few others. Yeah, just thought we were going to carry on with second. It's been a real hard slug getting the cars out. We've only got one with us this weekend, unfortunately, due to engine failure on the other one. So yeah, it's been a long weekend, so hopefully we're just going to pick up the points where we can.
Yeah, and I guess that's the thing now, isn't it? You're looking from a point situation, you're halfway through the season. It is now about points management, isn't it?
It certainly is. This is a power circuit. In the dry, we wouldn't have stood a chance, so obviously the rain's favoured us. We managed to get a podium out today, so fingers crossed that next race is wet. So
we'll keep those fingers crossed for you, Chris. Thank you once again, and congratulations on your third place.
Thank you very much.